Hey, what's up? I'm here at the TurboVelo Tuesday Night Crit. It is cooler than normal. It's about 90 or 95 degrees, which may not sound cool to you, but it's about 10 or 15 degrees cooler than it normally is. And the wind is about 10 or 15 miles coming out of the north, so normally it's been from the south, so that's going to be interesting to see how that affects the strategy on the course today. My main goal for the day is to, number one, as usual, don't crash. Number two, don't get lapped. But number three is try to take corners better, because I didn't do that very well last week. So we'll see how it goes for us today.
So here we are at the beginning of the race. We had a bit bigger field than normal today. There were 35 racers lined up at the start. And I want to take a second to talk about the wind, because normally I'll put a wind indicator on the map, but today it was kind of squirrely. Most of the time it was coming from the north. Sometimes it'd be coming from the east instead, but it felt like it was swirling around quite a bit. And the speed changed a lot as well. Sometimes it felt like 15 miles an hour, sometimes it was 5. So it made it hard to really get a bead on where I needed to position myself to deal with the wind. It was very dynamic. But here at the beginning of the race, in the middle of the pack, doesn't matter where the wind is coming from, I'm going to be sheltered right here. So this is a good place to be. Just a few seconds later, this is my brother here on the left passing me, and I wanted to show there's a dip in the road right here, and normally on this section we have a headwind, but today we had a tailwind on this section, so everyone was going much faster. You can see we're doing 28 miles an hour right now. And you may have noticed my brother's bike and many other bikes hopped a little bit going over this dip where it doesn't quite stay straight because the front wheel drops down and back wheel kicks out a little bit, or when you come up the other side of the dip, the front wheel pops up. So that was interesting to deal with. These little dips are all over the course, but this one on the southbound section is a little bit more extreme, and normally we're not going 28 miles an hour over it, so it's just an interesting little wrinkle to the day. Just about a lap later, you can see I'm making a big mistake here. I'm out in the wind. The wind's coming from the north or the east, so I'm not covered at all, but this guy comes around my left side, and I decide, okay, I'm going to try to stick on his wheel. I don't know if this was the right move or not. I feel like I spent too much energy just staying on his wheel, but technically I'm in the draft, so it feels like it should be good. But you can see here I'm doing 200, 300, 400 almost watts just to stay behind this guy. And for me, my FTP is around 230 to 250 right now, so I'm trying hard to stay on his wheel and again, put myself out in the wind here. I mentioned that I wanted to do better cornering. I think I took a good line through that corner, but I kind of paid for it. So now I'm just out in the wind, and I decided for a second there to just kind of soft pedal because I don't want to be pulling the whole group along, and then try to slot in behind this guy again. But you can see up to 300, 350 watts just staying behind this guy. So I think maybe this was a tactical mistake. I should have been further back in the group and drafting off of more than just one person. So just a few seconds later, I am smack dab in the middle of the pack, right where I want to be, but then the pack decides to pick up the pace. And so I'm going to have to put in a huge effort just to keep up. This rider on my left, Aditya, I'm trying to keep up with him, stay on his wheel, and you can see I'm doing 600, 700, 800, almost 900 watts just to close this gap down. And I'm still not closing it down. And they're still riding away from me, but I know how painful it would be to be out in the wind, so I want to catch up to that wheel, put in another big effort, another 800 watt effort, slowly closing this gap down. Aditya gets away from me, but I get on the tail of this other guy and manage to stay with the group at the cost of this huge effort. Just about a quarter lap later, you can see I'm still behind this rider in the white jersey and purple bib. His name's Nick. But I'm also getting passed on the right, and this is something that has happened to me in previous weeks where I'm holding a wheel, but I'm losing positions. And so as we come around this corner, again, trying to pick a good line through the corner, and I think I did pretty good there, I realize I don't want to stay behind this guy, I want to move up, but the whole pack kind of slows down, so it makes it hard to move up. I'm looking for a line to get through, and there's not really anything to do. There's just 4 or 5 riders wide, but there's this little sliver here on the left, so I try to go for that. Usually I get squeezed out trying to sneak by on this corner, but I wanted to make up some positions, and the group's going pretty slow. You can see we're only doing 17 miles an hour right now. So I try to keep slowly moving up on the left. I'm not doing an attack per se, but I just want to make up some of the wheels that I've just lost. About a lap later, I'm sitting on this guy in front of me in the pink and black. His name's Josh. I rode with him in previous weeks, and I know he's a strong rider. But again, I want to move up, make up some of the wheels that I've lost, and there was this opening on the right side, which is out in the wind, technically. The wind's coming from the north, from the right. But I just wanted to move up a bit. And then this guy on the canyon launches, and I had just positioned myself at the front of the group, so I figure, okay, I can get on his wheel. And you can see I did 900 watts just to catch up to his wheel, and then I put myself downwind, sheltered from him, and I'm still doing over 200 watts just to keep up even in the draft. So big effort. Again, like earlier in the race, this feels like maybe a mistake. I probably should have been further back in the group, but he was happy to pull for quite a while, and so I tried to sit behind him as long as I could. About half a lap later, I'm still behind Steve on the canyon. He's right in front of me, but there's riders in front of him. And then this guy on the left puts in an attack, and the group goes for it. They want to keep, they want to stay with him. So I had just been putting in a fair amount of work to stay on Steve's wheel, but here I'm in the middle of the group. I'm doing 500 watts, and I'm trying to keep up through this straightaway across the start-finish line. But it feels like the group's getting away from me. I don't know if I have enough power to keep up. That's my brother right in front of me. I ride with him all the time, so I figure I can keep up with him. So I'll just keep putting the power down until it slows back down again. And it did slow down for a second there. You can see I was down to about 100 watts, but still back up to 350 now. This is a big effort for me. I'm at 170 BPM, which is very high. My max is around 180, and I can see all these riders getting away from me. And this is a downwind section. The wind is with us, so it's not hurting as much as it might otherwise, but going 30 miles an hour, putting in 400 watts, and the group is riding away from me, which is mind-boggling. I didn't understand it at the time, and I don't understand it now. This was such a fast day for this crit. But I'm trying to keep up, trying to get on somebody's wheel, trying to stay with the group, because I know they've got to let up at some point, and I should be able to reconnect with the group even though there's a gap right now. So I try to take a really quick line through this corner to try to cut off some of the time, but then this rider goes around to my right. I can't keep their wheel either, and it feels to me at this point like the race is getting away from me. Another rider goes around me, another rider. I just keep getting past, and it hurts, but you can see I'm at 175 BPM. That was basically max effort for me, and it wasn't enough. The group rolls away from me. Half a lap later, you can see I most definitely have been dropped. I'm crossing the start finish here, and the group is maybe a quarter lap ahead of me. I could have dropped out of this race. Felt like I'm only halfway through it, and I'm mostly out here for exercise. So I decided I'll just treat the rest of this race like a time trial and see how quick I can do these laps. I didn't think I was going to catch the group. I thought maybe the group might splinter and there can be, a front group that I'm never going to catch, but a back group that I might be able to get onto. But really, I figured this was just going to be a time trial for me for the next 4 or 5 laps. So let's just head down and do that. And indeed, here we are a lap later. I'm still by myself. The group is so far in front of me, you can't even see them right now. But 4 laps to go on the sign, so I know how long I have to go here, and just still trying to time trial it. You can see I'm doing about 220 watts right now, up and down, up to 250 or so. So yeah, just trying to put in my FTP effort for the rest of the race. A little later on the lap, I passed this guy, and what I wanted to ask him was, is he still in the race? Is he still trying to go for it? Because if he is, then he could grab onto my wheel and we could take turns pulling, and it'd be beneficial for both of us. But he said, no, he's toasted, so he's just gonna drop out here. A little later on the same lap, past this lady, same question to her, same answer from her. So I was hoping that one of these 2 riders I would be able to, make a little team with essentially and cut my work, maybe not in half, but close to half. Unfortunately, they were both cooked, so they weren't finishing up the race, so back to time trialing for me. Crossing the start-finish line here with 3 laps to go, and you can see most of the stats are looking the same, holding the same speed, same watts, same BPM, which I guess is good for a time trial, but it gets a little discouraging holding close to your max power for this long. not too many highlights when you're time trialing, so here I am crossing the start finish again, and all the stats are staying constant, which is good. You know, power's not dropping, heart rate's not going up. I think part of that is because the weather was so nice today. I know 97 sounds really high, but normally it's like 105 or 110, so this was nice and cool, and it let me maintain the same power for this whole effort. Coming into the start finish on the final lap now, still by myself. You can see riders are dropping off, or people are getting lined up for the next race or for the finish of this one. And I was really concerned about getting lapped. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that's my number 2 goal, is don't get lapped. And I knew the field started a quarter lap ahead of me, and that was 4 laps ago, and they're going to be moving faster than me, so very good chance that they would catch my tail, and I didn't want that. So still, I'm trying to put in a big effort here. I think I ended up not getting lapped by about 10 seconds or so. I kept looking over my shoulder to see if the group was behind me, and I didn't see them, so that was encouraging. But yeah, it just felt like I was struggling to not get lapped, and it worked, but still demoralizing. Coming into the finish line now, I am happy to be done with this race. Not happy to be dropped so early in the race, but I set a new record for 20-minute power, which feels good, and that really just tells me that the race was faster than I could handle today, but I put in a solid effort for myself, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, that's it for the race today, and be looking forward to doing this again next week.